stupid. What's up, y'all? We back at it again with another episode of True Talks. But before we hop into this episode, I wanted to make y'all aware of the new merch, the True Talks merch. I have the white shirt here. And then also the black shirt, True Talks merch. Definitely hit me up if you're interested in purchasing either one of these shirts. They're available in all sizes pretty much. If you need some above a 2X, just let me know. We can special order that. It's all good. The price does increase though to $25. Not too bad for anything 2X and up. But yo, if y'all want it, DM me like you've been doing. You can cash app me directly at True Talks Podcast. That's the cash tag on there. And you can also visit my website at www.iamtrinice.com. And on there at the very top, you have the option of shop now, or it may pop up as an announcement to shop merch, and it'll take you directly to the online store. That's primarily for people who are not local that want it shipped. There is a shipping fee on there, so it'll be a $5 fee just to get it shipped out to you. But if you're local, I'm doing porch drop-offs, meetups. You let me know how you want to work that out, and we'll make it happen. I get you your merch. Thank you to everyone who's been supporting so far. I love y'all for real. To anybody who, want to purchase a shirt and also support on a monthly basis, visit anchor.fm/True Talks Podcast, and you can support the podcast for as low as 99 cents a month. Trust me, it adds up, and I appreciate it. Everything you buy in merch or donate or just give through Cash App, whatever amount you feel like donating, or support on Anchor, it goes back into the podcast 100% and bringing y'all better content, new merch, new equipment, the whole nine. So you can't go wrong. A local podcaster, True Talks. Follow me everywhere at True Talks Podcast, and you can stay up on all new merch and anything that I have going that you can pitch in and support. I appreciate it. Love y'all for real. Now it's time for the episode. Welcome back for another episode of True Talks. This is part 4 of our water series with Metro Waters. I'm pretty excited about this one because it is vastly different from the others. Like, we walk people through the history of Nashville water and understanding what all goes into providing us clean water. And so this one is really, I think, making all of those come together. Because we're going to look at a couple of documents that are available to you all as well that get released on an annual basis. So for starters, we're going to take a look at the understanding the consumer report as well as the annual report that gets released as well. So I'm going to welcome Ms. Sonia Allman here to explain all of that. Before we do that, there is a noticeable change to the background, guys. Drop in the comments below if you're on YouTube or anywhere where you can post a comment what you think about this background. I'm testing it out a little bit. It may make it into season 2. To those of you who are following me on Instagram, you have seen that logo before. It is the same one that is on the new merch, the True Talks t-shirts that just got released a little over two weeks ago. You guys have really been responding well to that. I appreciate the purchase, but yeah, it's the exact same one. Let me back up a little bit so y'all can get the female in there. So yeah, that may stick. Yeah, Sonia's giving me the thumbs up. So yeah, it may stick, guys. I kind of dig it. But yeah, we're going to hop into this episode. Again, this is part 4. So if you're just tuning in for the first time to True Talks, I'm the host and creator of this podcast. And this is a 5-part series. So you're tuning into the 4th part. You can go back and watch the previous ones anywhere that music and streaming things are available, as well as on YouTube now because we made this video. All right, that's it for the intro. I'm going to bring Sonia in. How are you?
I am well. How are you doing?
Pretty well.
So thank you again for having me. Yes, we've talked a lot about water, how it's treated, how it gets to your home, what happens when we get it back from you as wastewater. What a lot of people don't think about, in addition to the fact that when we turn on our faucet, we don't think about, oh, where did that water come from? We just know it's there. We use it every single day. But other things that we use every single day, we really want to pay attention to ingredients. We're in a society where we're looking at ingredients a lot. We're looking at calories, we're looking at sugars and, all types of ingredients. Is this made properly? Is this healthy for me? And so I like to think of the Consumer Confidence Report as kind of that ingredient list in a way.
Gotcha.
The Consumer Confidence Report is actually a report that all water utilities are required to send out. It's a requirement of the EPA. And it's so that all of the water's customers can know a little bit more about their water source and really bring attention to water and the things that might be in the water. Our water is not pure. Water is never pure. There are things in our water that can actually be good for us. We have minerals in our water. Depending on where you live, those minerals may be different. And we've talked a little bit about that in the past regarding water hardness and what can cause water hardness. We can go into that a little bit as well. But the consumer confidence report that you get, it has to come out by July of every year. Mm-hmm. We try to send it out around the first week of May because that's National Drinking Water Week, and we want everyone to be excited about drinking water.
Yeah.
But it is a full report that looks pretty much like this, and it tells you all about your water. We send it out to all 209,000 of our customers. It's also available online, not only this year's, but the previous years as well. We tell you about our system information in there. So you get to learn a little bit about where our water comes from, which is the Cumberland River. You get to hear about how our water is treated, and we have a nice diagram in there. But most importantly, it has detected substances in there. What many people don't realize is Metro Water Services has a state certified lab. And that state certified lab has a lot of extremely expensive equipment, a lot of extremely intelligent chemists and biologists in there. And we test for 105 different substances in our water.
Wow.
So every day we are doing samples, and our water is sampled over 300 times a day for everything from pH all the way up to radon and things that we definitely don't want in our water. So 105 different substances are what we sample for. And in the Consumer Confidence Report are substances that we detect. And just because we detect them does not mean that it's necessarily bad. It's just something that was detected. And then along in there, we have definitions. So the EPA sets up things for water, and they do a lot of research and study to determine what is safe for consumption, what is not safe for consumption, and at what levels can things become dangerous. You know, even Tylenol, which we take, Advil, Tylenol, any type of ibuprofen or medication, people take that to relieve a headache, and we think it's wonderful. But clearly, if you take too much of it, it's not good for you. Right. So even things that can be good for you, too much of it can be bad. Then there are other things such as cyanide that you don't want in water at all. So we test for all of these substances, and the EPA sets various levels. So on the CCR, you're going to see abbreviations, and it's going to be stuff like MCL and MCLG, and they're very confusing. So in the CCR, we actually tell you what that stands for. An MCL is a maximum contaminant level, and that is what is allowed. So under that amount, it's not going to be harmful to your health. EPA allows that amount in the water. But then you also have an MCLG, and that is the maximum contaminant level goal. And that is actually like, you know, the preferred. So there's no health impact. So you're always looking at those two numbers and wanting to definitely stay below those numbers. You know, you're wanting to always make sure that you don't just do what's required, but you meet those more stringent goals as well. I am very proud to say that Metro Water Services always meets or exceeds what is required of us. We never like to just be good enough. We always like to go above and beyond. And even in our Consumer Confidence Report, you will see a section that's called Above and Beyond that talks about various things that we do in our system to make our water even better. And some of those things are the purchase of additional equipment. So, you know, with lead, when lead was such a big thing in Michigan, we purchased additional equipment so that we can do lead samples much faster than we could do them before. So we can do more samples at a time. We get those results back much faster. So we've done, you know, stuff like that. We also look at studies. One of the things in our last CCR was talking about studies that we're doing to look at new technologies and improvements to our system and our treatment process.
Right.
So, you know, we have a lot of information in that Consumer Confidence Report that is not only interesting, but is good to know. If you do have a health concern, So if you have a compromised immune system, there are things that you might need to know about that the average person doesn't need to know about. So we have a section in there as well that talks about, immune compromised concerns. So
Yeah, and
I
that's definitely a
recommend,
concern right now with COVID and everything that's going on.
absolutely.
We're looking more closely at that terminology. But guys, for those of you who are curious about how to access that consumer confidence report, you just go to nashville.gov / or waters dash services. Let me get that correct. And it's the first thing that pulls up is that consumer confidence report. I'm just going to share screen here to kind of jump to that section you were talking about.
Absolutely. So we have our table of contents. We
Yeah.
talk about what it is. As you keep going down, we do have a section that is in Spanish to let people know that they should have this translated for them, that it does have really good information. But if you keep going down past the message from our director, we have a diagram of the treatment process. We talk about the treatment process, but then we really go into the meat of the report, which is our water quality testing and our laboratory. Again, right there, you see in big letters, we receive 0 drinking water violations. We talk about all those abbreviations and what things mean. And then you'll see the chart, which is coming up here, that shows the things. We clearly have fluoride in our water. We add fluoride. We actually do that. There's some nitrate and sodium in our water, which is very normal.
Mm-hmm.
We do test for turbidity. That is regulated because turbidity really affects how our treatment process works. Our river, as you know, in the summer months, we have a lot of rain. It can get really muddy, and that affects the turbidity. But then here are things that we also have regulated, like E. coli. That's something that we don't want. And it wasn't detected, but we want people to know that that was not detected.
Right.
So we do also want chlorine in our water. Chlorine is what we use as a disinfectant. And as long as we have a chlorine residual in our water, we like to keep it between 1 and 2. We know that there's no bacteria growing in that water because it's been disinfected. So I am one of those. I only drink tap water, and I actually enjoy the fact that when I go to a restaurant, I might be able to smell a little bit of chlorine because I know that there is a disinfectant in there, and regardless of how clean that glass may be or who may have touched it, I'm still going to be good to drink it.
Right.
We do also have our copper and lead. That's been, a big topic, especially since Flint, Michigan. We are happy to say that the maximum contaminant level of lead is 15 parts per billion. Our lead is at 1.6 parts per billion. So it is almost non-detectable.
Yeah. That's extremely insignificant.
Yeah. And previously equipment would test down to, milligrams per liter or parts per million.
Mm-hmm.
We can now go to parts per billion.
Wow.
And a part per billion is equivalent to about 32 seconds in a year. So, and actually, I think it's even smaller than that. And I will actually look at that.
And if it's even smaller than that, then I mean that is extremely
so,
low.
it is absolutely minute.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically undetectable. And if it weren't for the fact that we have such, great equipment now and new technology, we wouldn't even be able to test through parts per billion. So, we don't have a lead issue here in Nashville. We're very fortunate for that. We do have excellent water, but we do also share that message for vulnerable populations. Gotcha. Even bottled water can contain substances. So, it's very important for people with, HIV, AIDS. If you've had a transplant or you have any other immune compromised concern, that you know about what's in your water. Clearly, it's very important, what we put in our bodies. And it amazes me that tap water is one of those things that very few people think about.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're maybe fortunate that here in the United States and in Nashville, we will take a glass of water straight from the tap and we will give it to our child or grandchild or grandmother without a second thought because we know it's safe.
Yeah, and talk a little bit about that with the bottled water, because a lot of people think that because it's in plastic that's the contaminant, and that can be the case. If it's sitting out in your car all day, right, that plastic does interfere with the water. But it goes beyond just changing the container itself, right?
It does. Well, and so many people think that bottled water is better
sterile.
Than tap water.
Yeah.
And And, and I tell people so often, many of the bottled waters are just tap water from another system. It's tap water from somewhere else. Often it's gone through additional treatment, perhaps, but most of it is just tap water. One thing that people also don't realize is bottled water is regulated by the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA. We are regulated by the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency. Water utilities have to follow much more stringent regulations than bottling companies. So when you're looking at, how is this controlled? What kind of regulations are required? Much more stringent regulations are required on tap water than bottled water.
Gotcha.
Many of your bottled waters, if you look at them, will say, bottled in this company. It's, tap water from this place, and then it went through additional filtration. So it's not better. I'm not going to say it's worse, because it's definitely not bad for you, but it is important for you to, look at where that bottled water is coming from and compare it. I think so many people drink bottled water because it's convenient. It's easy to grab that bottle and go. A lot of people say they drink it because it doesn't have chlorine in it. And that is at some times the downfall of bottled water. It doesn't have a disinfectant in it. If you leave bottled water sitting in your car and it gets hot, those plastics in that bottle can begin to break down. Also, water does have a shelf life. So if you've opened it and you've taken a drink and you put it back down in the car and it sits there for a day, any kind of bacteria that may have been on your hands or on your mouth or, there around in the car, it doesn't have any chlorine to fight that. So as it's sitting in that warm car, things are allowed to grow. The same reason I tell people, if you use the filter for water, make sure you replace that filter, because if you don't, you may actually be putting bacteria into perfectly clean water. So I think it's just so important for people to, understand about water and about bottled water, and that, there's nothing wrong with bottled water, but be aware that in that bottling facility, if it's not clean, or if, often we're out working in the garden or cleaning house and we open that bottle of water and then we let it sit for a while, it does not have the chlorine in it that our tap water has to fight off any of that bacteria or things that could potentially make us sick.
Right. So essentially, if we get some bottled water from Metro Water, that would be a whole new thing.
Absolutely.
Right? We need to work on that convenience.
My family, my friends are not allowed to bring bottled water into my house. I have a pitcher of water sitting in my refrigerator that is ready to go. And if you let water sit out, that chlorine is going to dissipate out. Right. You will not know the difference between that and bottled water. And so often I will fill up bottles so my friends can grab it. And, often they're like, oh, this is great bottled water. Where did it come from? I was like, it came from the tap.
What are the odds of us seeing that happen here, though? Metro Water is having some bottled water on the shelf one day.
We really don't, because of the fact of the cost of bottling it and the plastics. Gotcha. One of the things that we are so proud of here at Metro Water Services is not only is our water high quality, it's very inexpensive. You can get almost 3 gallons of water for 1 penny straight from the tap.
Wow.
And it's convenient. It's at your house, it's at your friends' houses, it's everywhere you go. You just turn on the tap and there it is, ready for you. So I think, we really like to promote reusable containers so that we can keep those plastics out of the landfill. We keep those plastics out of our roadside ditches and storm drains that can cause flooding. And we really want to push people to use their reusable bottle and go to the tap and refill. So, it saves the cost of plastic, it saves the cost of bottled water, and is so much more sustainable.
Makes sense to me. I just thought we try to trip the people up that that are set on that bottled water game,
Yeah. So I say go grab yourself some reusable bottles that you can clean, fill them up with water, have them in your refrigerator ready to grab, and you're good to go.
Right. I'm with you. Now, can you talk about these impurities here that you kind of mentioned it and how it's,
things that can be present in source water, and those are things that we do. Mm-hmm. Viruses and bacteria from, failing septic systems and sewage leaks, salts and metals that can occur naturally, but also from runoff from, domestic uses, oil and gas production, pesticides and herbicides. I mean, that typically is a big one that we see here in Nashville. Everybody wants a, greener yard. And so they think, oh, well, if the package says this much, if I double that amount, it's better. And that's not necessarily true. That just means that what's not used gets washed off in the next rain.
Or neem oil.
Exactly. We spray
Yeah.
for bugs using pesticides, and we do it right before rainfall. So, a lot of those things we don't think about, they then go into our waterway. And those are things that, Metro Water Services has to remove from the water when drinking it. Again, I'll do another push for Music City Gold. It is a
Come on.
fertilizer that we make here at Metro Water Services, and it doesn't dissolve in the water. It's not one of those, herbicides or pesticides that contaminate water. So, what we do in our daily lives affect the drinking water that we use. So thinking about all the things that can get into our source water, which is the Cumberland River, that then have to be removed later. So, being very mindful of what we do in our daily lives and how that affects us in the long term. So, we include all of that in there, just really trying to bring more awareness to what we're doing and how it affects us, because we often don't think about that.
Yeah, I brought the neem oil thing up because Julie Burbilli actually gave a presentation to master gardeners of Davidson County, and she talked about how people either double up on its use and not think about how it gets into our waterways, and that's something that a lot of people use, even because it's considered organic. It's marketed
Right.
as that, right? So a lot of people assume it's harmless, but too much of it again is very costly. But I'm not going to get too far off topic, but I do want to mention, because you did talk about like our daily lives and making sure we're aware of what gets into our main waterway with the Cumberland River and all of that. You all do have an option of adopting a drain.
We do. We
And
do.
that's a very big issue here in Nashville. I'm seriously considering adopting the drains on my street, because they stay clogged and it's a problem. And I'm like, at this point in my life, I'm like, either I'm going to be a part of the solution, or I'm just going to just walk by it like it's nothing, but it's still affecting me. And so I would encourage you guys to definitely look into adopting a drain in your area. Start as simple as just on your street or to a park that you frequent often. See if someone's adopted it. If not, take the initiative of being that person to get the job done. It doesn't hurt.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
what people don't realize is we have over 48,000 inlets in our
Wow.
Davidson County area. So even though we have stormwater crews that are out there on a daily basis doing it, we can't get to all 48,000. And as people throw out trash or do stuff, it gets on those storm drains. So if you go to our website and click on Adopt a Drain, you can choose a storm drain. It's really easy. You kind of keep it swept off. If it's something that you can't clean, you report it to us so that we're aware of it and we can go out there and resolve it if it's a broken storm drain or something that's really clogged. And that can really not only help the environment around you, but prevent flooding when we have those heavy downpours and the water can't get into the storm drains and it just ponds in the road, which
Right.
causes a safety issue and so much more. So absolutely, thank you for the plug. Adopting a storm drain, every little bit, everybody getting involved helps.
Yeah, and we may talk about that a little more in the next part, in the final part, where we give general data and answer some questions from the audience. So that's a plug as well, guys. Be submitting those questions to me at trutalkspodcast@yahoo.com, and we'll get Miss Sonia to answer them as much as possible. But let's talk about this next portion here.
Yeah, so we pretty much end and this is something new that we've only been doing for, probably 4 or 5 years now, is having an entire section talking about preventing lead. Lead is not naturally in water. Lead gets in water by leaching it out of pipes.
Okay.
So Metro no longer uses lead in their pipes. It's something that was used years ago, but after around 1955, they stopped allowing lead in pipes. There is still some lead in the system, mainly in brass fixtures, lead soldering, and many of the small service lines going to a house can be lead. Now, rather than change all of that out, Metro Water Services years ago started actually doing a program where they add a polyorthophosphate to the treatment process. And what that does is that coats the interior of pipes. So it forms a nice coating on the inside of pipes and prevents any lead, prevents copper and lead and anything else from leaching out of those pipes. So it protects the metals in the pipe from being able to enter into the water. The benefit of that is it doesn't only benefit public water pipes, it also benefits those private pipes. So if you live in an older home and you have older plumbing, so you have a lead service line and you have lead solder and maybe even brass fixtures in your older home, you are protected by that as well, even though those are your private lines. So We have been doing this for quite some time. We have a very strong corrosion control. That's what it's called, corrosion control. We talk about that. We also talk about knowing if you have lead plumbing. There's a very easy way to determine if you have lead plumbing. Lead is kind of a dull pipe. It's easily scratched with a key. So if you scratch it and it has like a shiny scratch mark, you know that that is lead. And it's not necessarily that you replace it, but what we do recommend if you do have lead pipes is to let your water run if you haven't used it in a while. So if you go on vacation or you've been out of town for the weekend or even in the mornings, I know here at our administration building, our pipes are a little bit older.
Mm-hmm.
So on Monday morning before we make coffee, we turn that cold water on and we let it run for a while to get all of that water that's just been sitting in the pipe over the weekend and hasn't been flushed through to flush out of the pipe. So we're actually getting that fresh water when we make our coffee. So, if you live in an older home, I would recommend after a vacation, many people often maybe see rust in their water if they live in a really older home, like at my house. If I'm gone for a week, my water looks a little bit yellow where I've got some rust in my pipes and it's been just sitting there. So, let that flush out. And that's really all you need to do. We do lead testing. So if you do have a concern, if you think you have a lead pipe and you have small children in your home and you want to know for sure, you can call our laboratory, and at the very back page of our consumer confidence report are contact numbers. So you can actually give us a call. We will send you a lead sample kit, and you can actually pull a sample. We will test it for you and give you those results. So, we are here from you. We test our water system daily, but we're more than happy to test your internal plumbing as well if you feel that you have a concern.
Nice. Now this next part, the solar powered. Was it the Alejandro plant that I met up with you at, and I kind of saw it up top of the
yes. We do have a few solar panels there. We're actually putting more solar panels out. So years ago, we started really looking into utilizing solar and wind power. Mm-hmm. We had a pilot project up on Love Circle. We had a big windmill up there and some solar panels. And Nashville is not quite as windy as some other places. So wind power wasn't quite as lucrative, but solar power, we have a lot of sun here. We also have a lot of expansive areas at our treatment plants. So we're really wanting to look into the use of solar power. So we're going to put it at one of our water treatment plants and a couple of our wastewater plants. And we're going to start there and hopefully continue to go. One of the things that Metro Water Services has done is when we build new buildings, we always build LEED. So we look at that sustainability. We always go for LEED silver, but for sure, but we strive for LEED gold. And, we want to use more solar. So that is one of our projects that we're looking at now. We're kind of ramping up, clearly with COVID and budget issues. That slowed down some, but it didn't stop. We're still moving forward, and we're going to get those solar panels at these facilities.
It looks really cool. When I toured that plant, that was like one of the things that I was really excited about when you were showing it to me. Being someone that's deeply into science, I'm all for tapping into natural resources as much as possible. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Go here. Oh, these are just the questions on here.
Yeah.
And that's that phone number you said that they can contact you all by?
862-4600. That is our customer service center. They will be happy to help you with anything or guide you to anyone you want. So if you want to contact me, my number is the 862-4494 number. So you can definitely reach me as well, and we will be happy to answer you. So be looking for the newer consumer confidence report coming out in May of 2021. Yeah. We will be pulling all the data from 2020 and getting all those numbers together and putting it in the report and sending that out. But even before that, in the beginning of 2021, you will see our new annual report. And that is actually separate from the consumer confidence report. The annual report is more of an overall report talking about things that we've done. We used to do an annual report at Metro Water Services many, many years ago, and then they stopped doing it. 2019 was the first year that we did an annual report. We talk about our history. We have a rich history. We've been here since 1826. Alejandro, you have been to, and you see pictured here, has been in service since 1889 and is still in service. So, we talk about that. We talk about our growth and our master planning. We like to talk about some of the new things that we've done. And at the very end of our annual report is our financial data.
Now, I haven't moved on because every time that I pull this annual report up, I'm blown away by this portion here, that 51 million gallon reservoir.
Yes. Yes.
That's a lot of water. That
It is
is
a
a
lot of
lot of
water.
water. Yeah.
And, our 2 treatment plants can each treat up to 90 million gallons a day. And Nashville as a whole, we can each treat 90 million. Nashville as a whole, on average, uses 92 million gallons of water a day.
Wow. And we haven't
And that
seen that
really,
really grow as much with the growth of Nashville. And that's surprising, right?
yes.
Yeah.
I think we've gotten really good with conservation.
Mm-hmm.
Houses that are being built are using low flow toilets and low flow fixtures. I think we're becoming more mindful, especially now with our new rate increases. That is a tiered structure. So the more water you use, the more you pay for that water at a higher rate. So I think as a society, we become really more mindful of wise water use. So
Mm-hmm.
even though Nashville has grown, our water use has remained somewhat stable. Clearly in the summer months, we have peaked this year at, 120 and 130 million gallons a day as people irrigate and are using water, to play, especially with COVID and kids being home. But on average, we use 92 million gallons of water every day. And that is a lot of water.
That is.
And, half of it, or sometimes even more than half of it, is coming from a treatment plant that was built in 1889.
Wow.
So, a lot is going on, and we continue to grow. We continue to look at new technologies and change. In our annual report, we talk about growth. We talk about energy management as we're always looking to reduce our costs. Electricity is one of our highest costs at Metro Water Services.
Wow.
And even just one of our water treatment plants can have over $130,000 electric bill each month. So doing a lot of improvements, we've been able to save over $900,000, and we're just continuing to improve. So we are using our methane gas at biosolids to heat our dryers. We're going to begin using solar power. We have used newer technology that doesn't require as much energy. A lot of our facilities have lights that turn out automatically and don't turn on until there's movement. So we're really looking at ways that we can save as much as possible to keep those costs down.
Wow. That's great. I mean, it's really, I enjoy like seeing the ins and outs of things and how they all interconnect. Because even though they're separate, like we've talked about, energy and water,
Yes.
but they kind of interconnect in a way that everything works,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It really does. And there are so many things out in our community that we see every day that we don't even realize. One of them, for example, is this tank that's out at West Park. It is a huge tank. It actually helps eliminate sewer overflows, because when we have heavy rains and we have rainwater that gets into our sewer system, it can cause an overflow. And what this tank does is it will actually store it until the rains and the heavy flows subside, and then we can get it into the sewer system. So
Gotcha.
we needed property. The parks, West Park had this great property, but the park was had been a little bit run down and needed some attention, but parks didn't have the money to do it. So we partnered with them and said, if we can build the tank on your property, because we're not having to buy this expensive property, we will put that money into the park, build a new playground, build a new ball field. So it was a win-win for everyone. And because we had this huge tank in the park, we didn't want it to just be plain. So we had a mural painted on it. So it now kind of somewhat blends into the landscape. So things that we see every day, that we may have been at West Park and seen this tank and thought, I have no idea what that is. You can read about them in our annual report. We do have signage there as well, but there are so many things going on around us in Nashville that Metro Water Services is involved in or part of. And reading it through our annual report can really educate our community on all the things that we do, and things that we plan on doing in the future.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go and check that out. I did not know that about West Park. Where
Yes.
exactly is it located?
So, and I wish I could get you, it's actually near Richland Creek.
Okay.
So, the actual park address, I can send you the address. But if you just Google West Park as part of parks, it will bring it up. But it's over there by Richland Creek.
Got you. Yeah, no, I'm gonna go and check that out because I didn't
Yeah.
know that. I knew about you guys like post the flood we had,
Yes,
2010. You all started really going to those areas where it was just flood
absolutely.
zone, and really recovering those and making it where no one can build on them, but it was for the
Right.
use of metro waters and water conservation efforts. But I didn't know you guys had did this. That's
So
pretty
yeah,
cool. Yeah.
it's a very large tank. The park got a basketball court and a playground and a new ball field, and the park is an amazing park now. And I think
Hmm.
so many more people can enjoy it now. And there's this tank in the background that so many people probably have no idea what it is or why it's there.
Yeah.
Um, so we also planted quite a few trees on site, and trees are so important to not only our community but Metro Water Services because of stormwater. So the trees really help with stormwater runoff. The canopy helps with island heat. The
Hmm.
roots help absorb uh, the ground moisture so that it helps prevent flooding. Those leaves are also helping pull out pollutants from our air. So trees are so important to our community, but especially to Metro Water Services and our stormwater division.
Right. To all the gardeners out there, we know this all too well. When we have an area in our plot, our garden plot, we typically get a native plant and put it there because it's most of the time either collecting runoff water or just sitting in a lot of water. And native plants know how to respond to that,
Yes.
and so it helps us with all of our problem of the water just sitting there and getting root rot a lot of the times. So yeah, trees are very important. I'll tell you guys, if you just lock into playing your position in preserving a lot of these things and really educate yourself about how to get involved, it's going to save the earth. You may think that it's just localized in your assistance with this, but really if you do it and your neighbor does it, it becomes a community doing these things, and then it becomes the city, and then it's the state, and it's the nation. So it really is just a small effort goes a long way. But then we completed with this substation. Can you kind of go into
Yes.
detail about this?
So KR Harrington, our other water treatment plant, has always had generators. And so, we knew that if there was a power outage, we could run on generators at that plant. However, during the 2010 flood, KR Harrington was completely shut down, and
Mm-hmm.
Omohundro was our only water treatment plant. During the flood, we actually had a small incident where someone mowing the grass nearby hit a pole and clipped a wire.
Yikes.
And our water treatment plant lost power for about 10 minutes. NES got us back really quick. We were very fortunate, but it really gave us a quick, and we
Right.
thought about the fact that, we need to be able to have power here as well. At the Omohundro campus at Omohundro South, which is a property that we bought adjacent to our water treatment plant, that's the old Mannheim auto auction property. We have our laboratory there, our central laboratory, and it's necessary to have power there as well to run all of these lab samples. We don't have the option of saying, oh, we've had a power outage or we've had a flood, so we're just going to shut down for a while. People still need water. So we still have to treat that water and test that water and get the water out to the community because it's important for fighting fires and in hospitals for doing surgeries. We can't go without water.
Not to sound
So
selfish, but no, y'all got to stay where y'all are.
we
We
got
need
to
you.
be there. We've got to be there for our community.
Yeah.
So we have built an Omohundro substation at Omohundro that can produce enough power to power that entire facility. Not only the Omohundro water treatment plant, but also our laboratory and our system services division, which is what houses all of our repair crews and maintenance crews.
Gotcha.
So now at both of our water treatment plants, we have backup power. Additionally, when we have a lot of heat and we have high power surges, we can actually go off the grid, which allows NES and TVA to provide the power needed for other areas, and we can produce our own power.
Nice.
So by having
Nice.
that, it also gives us a little bit of a lower rate because if we are told by TVA, hey, we're having a power surge, we need y'all off the grid,
Mm-hmm.
we can get off the grid immediately. And by doing that, they will give us a reduced rate.
Wow.
So it's just that backup plan of looking to the future, looking to see, we want to make sure that we've got all our boxes checked in the time of an emergency. and that we can do everything that we can do so that even in a tornado or a ice storm or a flood, water is still available to our customers. And one of the things that my director, Scott Potter, says is he is a risk manager. And every day he is managing risk and making sure the community has the water they need and that we collect the wastewater that is sent back to us. And this Omaha substation is just one more way that we have avoided that risk and, don't have to think about that, can look to the next thing.
Right.
The pilot plant that we also talk about was at our Harrington water treatment plant. And as we know, technology is always changing. Science is always changing. And so we don't want to be the utility that does things this way because it's the way it's always been done. We're always looking at new technologies, but we also don't want to be the first ones to try something because you always run that risk of, oh, it seemed like a good idea, but now that we've made all of these adjustments, we realize it wasn't a good idea. So before we make any changes to our system, we always do a test. So we actually had a pilot plant that we ran for an entire year because things can change based on weather and temperatures and rainfall amounts. So we did it every season for an entire year. And we looked at different treatment methods to see which works best with the Cumberland River. Are we able to save money anywhere? What is the outcome? How does it affect water? That's one thing that in Michigan they did not do. They changed their treatment process without looking forward, and it caused so many problems with lead and other things. So we did this pilot plant last year. What we will now do is we've got all of that data, a year's full of data that we are sorting through to determine, are we going to keep our existing treatment process or are we needing to tweak things or change things to, improve our water even more, perhaps save money if possible. We're looking at all of those things. And so we talk about our pilot plant as well.
Yeah.
And probably in our next annual report, we'll have more information on some of those findings as well.
I'm sure y'all are so thorough that it's only growth. Like literally,
Absolutely.
guys, if you take the time out to go to some of these plants, and that may be something we feature in the next one too, as a part of our frequently asked questions and just people posing questions to you, is really describing what each one of those plants do and who should come and view it. Because when I went to the couple that I've been to, it was so much more involved in just operating it and the way you guys think about what to keep, what to replace, what to modify. Like the biosolids is the one that sticks out to me the most because you have so many things working at once and they're all doing various tasks, right, to get that end product. That's where the Music City Gold is produced.
Right.
And so it's very, very precise, I guess, for lack of a better word, in their approach and in the way in which they do things. So yeah, we're definitely gonna have to spend some time talking about it. We've talked about it a little bit, like as it pertains to the topic we're covering for that part, but I think just a brief overview of, what each one does will really benefit everyone. But can you go into this side here with the stormwater? I know you kind of addressed it a little bit, but what are you guys trying to promote here?
Sure. So, a lot of people don't realize that stormwater is part of Metro Water Services. We are what we consider to be a one water utility. And we have a stormwater division that is responsible for so much from beginning to end. So they have an engineering division. They're actually looking at construction sites, making them put up silt fences and manage their sites so that we don't get mud and runoff running into our creeks and streams. They're looking at the designs to make sure that when something is built, you're clearly putting a lot more of a, impervious surface on there. We know that when rainwater hits the ground, it absorbs into the grass and the dirt. But when it hits asphalt or a rooftop or any kind of a sidewalk, it just runs off.
Right.
And often when it runs off, it picks up contaminants that, whether it be, brake dust or oil from cars or things that we've poured out onto the sidewalk, that rainwater carries all of that into our creeks and streams. So they also are looking at when you build something and you've taken away all of this absorption, is that going to cause flooding? So they're looking at, water quality, they're looking at water quantity. So we have an entire engineering division that is doing that. We also have a maintenance section that is out there on a daily basis maintaining our system. Our stormwater, like I said, we've got 48,000 inlets. We have 866 miles of culvert and ditches that are connecting all of those inlets. So we're constantly having to clean out and redefine ditches that over time get silted in and filled up, cleaning out storm drains, replacing cross drains where, you know, a ditch will cross under a road as that metal will start to rust away and deteriorate. So we have maintenance crews that are constantly out cleaning and doing that. We also have crews that design and build stormwater infrastructure. Many of our older neighborhoods, as you drive through them, you'll see they have ditches, but they don't have sidewalks, they don't have curbs, they don't have storm drains. And some of them don't even have ditches, and the water just flows where it wants. And so in some of those areas, we actually have to design stormwater infrastructure and build it. So we have an entire team that does that. And then the team that I actually used to work with is our environmental team. And we have people that are out on a daily basis checking industrial sites to make sure that they are properly storing stuff, that they don't have oils and stuff like that leaving their site. We are doing stream walks to see if there are illicit discharges flowing into streams where there could be septic tanks overflowing or breaks in sewer lines, or even at times, you know, places that have discharge lines run out to the creek and maybe they didn't know it, or maybe sometimes they did know it even. So we're always out in the environment looking for any type of discharges, people that are illegally dumping, businesses that may not be properly maintaining their stuff, even mop water. You know, we often find restaurants that, you know, they open their back door and they throw their mop water out into a storm drain, or they have a dumpster that is not properly maintained, or a grease trap, and that is just seeping stuff onto the, you know, patio or driveway.
Smells disgusting too. Ooh, it smells awful.
And so we have crews that are always out looking at those environmental things as well.
Yeah.
So we have, you know, the stormwater user fee that residents pay along with their water and sewer bill goes to pay for all of that stormwater management. So stormwater issues its own annual report that talks about all the outreach they do, all of the sites that they found. And it can actually be quite interesting to see some of the sites they have found, you know, that were just a complete mess, you know, where they were breaking apart vehicles and rebuilding them, and there were just oils and antifreeze and things all over, chemical storage places where they weren't properly storing chemicals. So, you know, we have teams of people that are always out looking for that. We clearly don't want to, you know, issue violations. We prefer to educate first. Often people just don't know. I actually at Earth Day one year had a sweet lady come up to me saying that she does her part to keep the environment clean, and every day she picks up her dog's poop and throws it down in that storm drain. And it was an education process to let her know that storm drains go directly to our creeks and streams. So, you know, she was just taking it out of her yard and throwing it directly into that storm drain, but she didn't know. So she wasn't doing it maliciously. It's an education thing. So, you know, we have stormwater as well that's out there, out in the community every day. Hopefully soon you'll start seeing more signage. I've recently made some signage to really promote some of those stormwater projects that we do, because we have people out in the community on a daily basis and doing things that we often drive by and don't even know that that's a stormwater project.
Right. Proper disposal is important for sure, especially when it comes to the oil with cars.
Yes.
You know, I wouldn't have thought about the dog poo, but the oil with cars, it, you know, come on. You have to make sure we're containing things so that it stays in an isolated area and it gets disposed of properly. And, that'll cut down on a lot.
Dog poop is not a good fertilizer. It is not the same as chicken manure or cow manure that we often use as a fertilizer. And I'm often asked why not. And one of the biggest reasons is because dogs are carnivores.
Right.
So dogs are eating meat. You know, the cows and the chicken, when they have their manure, it doesn't have that bacteria in there and the E. coli.
It's grass-fed.
So dog poop has got E. coli in it. And that is not something that we want used as a fertilizer on our vegetables or down in our storm drains. Yeah. So we will actually soon on social media, we're recording it this weekend, we'll have a video about picking up the poop and reminding people that when you take your dog out for a walk, not only is it nice for your neighbors to pick it up, but it's good for the environment. And even if it's your own backyard, going out, every now and then, picking up that poop, tying it up in a plastic bag and throwing it in the trash. You can also buy, it's kind of like a small septic tank for dog poop that kind of composts it down in there. It's very much like a human septic tank that you can bury this thing into the ground and put your dog poop in there if you don't want to put it in the trash can. But we don't want it laying out where rainwater can then wash it off into our creeks and streams.
Right. And this is in real time, guys. So this video will be posted tomorrow. What is tomorrow's date?
Well, they're
16th.
recording it. They're recording it this weekend, so it'll probably be posted next week. So y'all are the first to know about it.
Yeah. All right. Cool. And exclusive. We appreciate that. So yeah, this episode will be posted tomorrow on the 16th. They get released every Friday. So definitely watch for that video and follow Metro Waters on their social media so you don't miss it. But yeah, I think that's pretty important. I mean, you'd be surprised how often that question is posed in gardening forums and stuff that I'm a part of is, can you use dog poop for fertilizer? And the answer is always and will forever be no, unless you're just feeding your dog grass,
Right.
which that may cause them problems, and you may not want that on your veggies either, because there are certain things that they need. They are carnivores, so you can't strip them of their needs for your purposes of fertilization. But it's going to be interesting to watch how this conversation evolves into human remains, because that is something that people are suggesting that they're open to doing.
Right.
So, yeah, I can't say I'm opposed to it either. Like, I want to become one with the soil. It may sound a little weird, but hey, all of this matter and material that I'm made of and minerals that the earth can still use, it's kind of a new life form. I'm still around even when I'm not,
That's
so
true.
I'm not throwing salt at anybody, but it'll be interesting, 5-10 years from now, we revisit this conversation, and then it's one of, should human remains be used?
And learning and evolving. And
Right.
Science is that amazing thing that is always changing, on a daily basis.
Right. So this last couple of parts, right? Well, no, that's the last part. It's the financials. So you want to go over that for us?
If you just really want to go into our financials, it really talks about our budget and where that money goes.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people are always very interested because you are paying your water bill. What many people don't know is Metro Water Services does not get tax money. So we are completely funded by our water, sewer, and stormwater revenues. So our customers pay the bill, and we use that money for all of our operations and maintenance and staffing and utilities and chemicals. So this really shows you where that money goes. So, how much of it we're going into, capital projects, and how much of it is covering operational costs. And then the blue area is just some by the numbers. It's just kind of some fun facts that, people often don't think about. We had 2,803 stormwater requests last year where people said, hey, I need you to come out and look at a potential stormwater problem. Of those, we completed over 1,800 work orders on stormwater. So we sent out over 2 million customer bills last year with all of our customers. We have 209,000 water customers. So our peak wastewater treatment, which people often is just a crazy number, our peak wastewater treatment was 457 million gallons.
Wow.
So February 23rd of 2019, Metro Water Services treated 457 million gallons of sewage. Wow. So those are just some, numbers to kind of look at, to kind of think about, Metro Water Services, what we do on a general year, how many calls we take, how many notices of violations we issued. So it's just some interesting by the numbers that we throw out there for our customers so they can kind of get a little bit of a gist of what we do every day.
Right. And it never hurts, especially for those who ask, why does the price go up, whenever there's a price increase. So this all makes it, kind of makes sense.
Well, we want people to know what we're doing, why we do it, and what their money is paying for. So that's always important.
Yeah, and this last page is just information yet again, guys. That phone number that Miss Sonia actually read off to you guys about the customer service. Oftentimes you can use that to report any type of problem that you have, any questions that you have too. So definitely write that one down. And again, follow them everywhere, Metro Waters, on social media.
Yes.
So you don't miss that video, and so you can see these nice graphics
Facebook,
Miss
Twitter,
Sonia
Instagram.
creates.
We'll see you on Next Door. So follow us.
Right. I mean, hey, she's creating some pretty cool flyers and posters to really spread good messaging about water conservation efforts and how you can truly get involved. Some of the things we've discussed, adopting that drain, is critical. We all hear about the sewage problem here in Nashville and how it's only getting more and more expensive each year that we're not addressing it. If you start taking the initiative of really contributing to your community by just simply adopting a drain and doing your part, hopefully that'll make someone else want to do theirs. Yep. You can visit the website again. I'll plug that again. Nashville.gov/water-services to access the annual report as well as that consumer report. It's the first two things that get shown, so you can't miss it. And right below it is the customer service information.
And I will let y'all be the first to hear about two important days that very few people know about.
We're all ears.
The 19th of this month is World Toilet Day.
What?
You can look it up. Google World Toilet Day. Make sure that you reach out to all of your friends and wish them a happy World Toilet Day. And then on the 21st of this month is Imagine a Day Without Water. And we'll have some social media about that as well. But it is important for us to always sit back and think, what would a day be like without water? So tomorrow morning, when you get up, you go out to the bathroom and you flush and you brush your teeth and you wash your hands. Think about what your day would be like if you weren't able to do just those simple things.
Ooh, we'd all catch COVID. I tell you that much. No?
Right.
That's a good question. I'm going to have to write about that. I'm a writer, so I have to think about that question and write my reflection on that because that's deep.
So you can Google both of them, World Toilet Day and Imagine a Day Without Water. Both celebrated in October.
Wow, that's cool. So right before Halloween, get those 2 dates in a celebration and start a new tradition. Oh, wow. Well, thank you, Miss Sonia, for joining us. I'm actually going to exit out of this share screen real quick, get back to the normal one. But thank you for providing us with all of this information. I really enjoyed myself talking with you. You're always so candid and just answer the questions. And I really appreciate that.
Well, thank you.
We have one more part, unfortunately, but hopefully.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Y'all send in those questions.
This opportunity.
Yeah, I've had a lot of fun. I've learned so much. Like where I thought I'd learned a lot on these plants, and I did, like the plant tours, but talking to you has really just made me even expand my knowledge on this subject. So I'm very appreciative, and it's not in vain. I promise you I'm going to try my best to contribute in a good way.
Well, I think you already do a good job, and you just spreading the word and letting people know is amazing.
Right. Thank you so much. Well, guys, this is going to conclude the 4th part. Come back for the 5th part if you'd like to really run the show, because all we're doing is answering your questions. Like I said, in this episode, we kind of, came to the conclusion that we will give a breakdown of the plants as well, just in case, something about COVID changes and they're able to open back up for touring. You can sign up and do that. But until then, you do have the ability to take those virtual tours of the plant and see what they're all about as well. And that's pretty much it, guys. So we'll see you next month again. And hopefully you guys tune in. Follow Metro Waters on social media. Watch for that video. Follow me everywhere at True Talks Podcast on Instagram for more exclusive content. And if you'd like to purchase merch, definitely DM me on there with your size and CashApp me at True Talks Podcast. They're $20 a shirt, guys. Available in black and white. Like I always leave you guys, be blessed in every day that God gives you. Your life is full of purpose. Until next time, deuces.